In this video, we're going to be installing this CSF high performance heat exchanger in the F33. Let's go. What's up everyone, I'm Steve and you're watching F33. Now if you like this video, give a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss when a new video drops. Now BMW engines run hot and the N55 is no exception. Now some of the things that can increase those temps are living in a warmer climate, tuning for increased horsepower, or even hitting the track. So what do you do if you want to keep your BMW engine cool? Well, the simple answer is head on over to Keys Motorsports and pick up the CSF High Performance Heat Exchanger. Now, while you're there, you should check out some of the other cooling products by CSF, like intercoolers and their oil cooler. Now, as always, I've put links in the description below to all the products, tools, and specs that you'll need for this install. Now this heat exchanger is really great. It's made of high quality aluminum and uses CSF's B-tube technology to further increase the cooling potential. This is also going to handle hits from rocks and other debris a lot better than the stock heat exchanger. Now this project is also going to allow me to do a coolant flush, which at 60,000 miles, I'm really due for one. Now this video is not going to cover how to fill the coolant. That's going to be in another video, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I didn't want this video to be too extremely long. I wanted to basically just cover the install of this, and then you could check out that other video on how to actually fill the coolant the right way. All right, so why don't we head out to the garage and get this installed. To complete this install, you're gonna need a T25, 6, 8, and 10 millimeter sockets, a right angle pick tool, and a 5-gallon bucket. The difficulty rating of this install is medium. The first thing you're gonna wanna do is remove your air intake. Now to remove your intake, you're gonna wanna unclip the air box. Then, remove the air sensor and vacuum line. The last step is to loosen the hose clamp with a 6 millimeter socket. Now that everything is disconnected, you can remove the intake and filter. Next, loosen the two hoses coming from your coolant reservoir. Next, you're going to want to drain the coolant. Make sure that your car is cold. You do not want to get burned by coolant. Before we start draining the coolant, we're going to want to remove the cap on the coolant reservoir. This way the system won't be trying to hold a vacuum when we're trying to flush it. As you look at the water pump, you're going to want to remove the hose from the water pump that's closest to the steering rack. Remember that as soon as you disconnect this hose, the coolant is going to come out. So make sure that you have a 5-gallon bucket or something ready to catch the coolant. You may find that your hose is stuck on the water pump. If this is the case, don't worry. Just take a right angle pick tool and go around the hose gently to break the seal. Just be careful because you don't want to puncture that hose. Once you think you got all the coolant drained, you'll want to squeeze some of the hoses just a little to make sure that you've gotten it all out. The next thing we're going to want to do is remove the fan. Now to do this, we're going to remove the T25 at the top of the fan on the passenger side next to your intake pipe. This is going to allow you to pull up a bit on the fan so that you can reach the fan's power plug. Now to remove this plug, just squeeze on the sides. This plug is a little hard to get to, so be patient. Now to fully remove your fan, you're going to want to disconnect the coolant pipe and the overflow hose at the top of the radiator. Be careful of this overflow hose as this hose can be a bit brittle. This will give the fan mounting clip on the driver's side some clearance to get past. All right, now it's time to remove the heat exchanger. Remove the two T25s at the top of the radiator that secure it to the top cover. Next, to remove the hose at the bottom of the radiator, just pull up on the clip to release it. Now that the radiator is fully disconnected, you're going to want to tip it back towards the motor and then lift it out. All right, so let's compare the difference. As you can see with them side by side, the CSF Performance Heat Exchanger looks so much nicer. I love the fit and finish of it. The stock radiator has a bunch of plastic parts, unlike the CSF that is all aluminum. The CSF heat exchanger is going to slot back in the same way that the stock one came out. Just be careful not to get hung up on any hoses. Now is a good time to connect both the hoses on the passenger side of the radiator. Make sure that the retaining clips on those hoses lock securely in place. If you have an automatic, you're going to have another coolant hose at the bottom of the radiator on the driver's side that you'll also want to connect. Next, you want to put the cover on. The cover is going to attach a little bit differently in that it's going to use spacers and bolts instead of the T25s that were originally on there. Also, remember that these are metal bolts into plastic. Do not over-tighten them. Here's the diagram that shows how these spacers fit in relation to the new heat exchanger and that top cover. Next, let's get the fan back in place. Slide the fan in carefully, making sure that you don't get hung up on any hoses or cables. This is also a good time to plug in the fan before you get it completely seated back in place. To secure the fan, tighten the 10mm bolts on both the passenger and driver's sides. If you have an automatic, you'll have an additional screw on the driver's side that will secure the transmission cooler to the fan. All right, almost done. Let's get all our hoses reconnected, both at the top and underneath the car. Put both your skid plate and belly pan back on and reinstall your air intake. Now that everything is all buttoned up, you're going to want to fill your coolant back up using a 50-50 mix of BMW coolant and distilled water. Now this video isn't going to go over how to fill your coolant, but I've got another video coming soon that's going to go over how to fill your coolant the right way. All right, looks like we got everything installed. Let's head back out to the deck for some final thoughts. Now, as you saw, the CSF High Performance Heat Exchanger from Keys Motorsports is a great addition to any build. The installation isn't too difficult. You just need to take your time and have a little patience. Now, as I said, the how to fill your coolant the right way video is coming up soon, so be sure to check that out. Now, as always, I put links in the description below to all the products, tools, and specs that you'll need to complete this install. Now, if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button, smash it if that's what you're into, subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in the next one. God bless.